Today we're starting a brand new message series. While preparing this series, we noticed something interesting about the second readings for the rest of the summertime. They were all taken from St. Paul's letter to the Romans. So following that lead, we're taking the next few weeks to go through this book of the Bible to see what kind of wisdom and encouragement we can find there. We're calling our series, When in Rome. To kick off this series, our first passage is a selection of only 2 verses from the 8th chapter of Romans. 2 very short verses, but still there's a lot there to unpack. And so let's start with the first verse and work our way through it. It goes like this. The Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought, but that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. So right off the bat, St. Paul makes a statement here that you might not like very much. Ready? You've got weaknesses. And so do I. And we need to overcome them. We can't just strong-arm ourselves into it. We need divine intervention. We need help. Because we all have weaknesses, flaws, and shortcomings that weigh us down and hold us back, like your spiritual Achilles heel, so to speak. And it looks different for everyone. Perhaps your spiritual Achilles is your temper. You blow up or melt down at small stuff and end up doing or saying things that you never really meant to do or say, but hurting other people in the process. Perhaps your spiritual heel is a bad habit, or even more seriously, an addiction. Getting out of this cycle seems like an impossible task. You've tried a dozen or more times and you feel like you're still stuck. Or perhaps your spiritual heel is pride. Your life is going pretty good, especially compared to other people, right? Sometimes you wonder why you would need the help of another person or even the help of God, because everything's going just fine, thank you very much. These heels and countless others break down our relationship with God and slow down our progress towards holiness, towards becoming a better you. And even in these few examples, we've seen how we're masters at deceiving ourselves. We rationalize bad behavior, right? They deserve it. Or we play the victim. I can't help myself. Or we refuse to accept criticism. Who are you to judge me, right? Or we shift the blame. It's not like I'm murdering people and I'm better than them. At least I'm not like them, right? We make it hard for ourselves to overcome weaknesses in any number of ways. That's why the Holy Spirit helps us in our weakness, because we desperately need the help of the advocate, of the Holy Spirit. So the verse goes on to say, for we do not know how to pray as we ought. Prayer is hard. And I'll be the first one to admit that. And this is coming from a guy with some formal training on how to pray. And one of the main reasons why prayer can be difficult comes from the 2 different aspects of prayer itself: form and content. The form of prayer is how you pray, whether it's singing or praying the rosary, meditating, or attending Mass. All of these are methods or forms of prayer. But it's hard for some of us to figure out how to enter into these forms, right? Some people feel restricted by certain forms of prayer, or bored, or guilty, or they're worried because they don't feel like they have the right words to say. And it can make prayer feel like a pretty intimidating thing. The content of prayer is what you actually pray for. What are you asking God for? Help for ourselves or for others? Guidance maybe? Or some patience? Miracles? Or an answer? Or answers? And how do we know that we're praying about the right things? Are we trying to balance our many requests with gratitude too? It's tricky to figure this all out. And when it comes to these two aspects, form and content, our spiritual weaknesses work against us and complicate things even further. Frustration can have us giving up on prayer when it doesn't go perfectly. Shame can have us believing that God is not even going to listen to us if we try to pray. Laziness is brutal. Laziness can demotivate us and make us not even feel like praying. And pride can have us thinking that we don't even need to pray in the first place. Thankfully, though, there is the Holy Spirit. Check this out. We do not know how to pray as we ought, but the very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. The Holy Spirit advocates for the needs that we can't quite articulate because He knows us inside and out. And so while we can get confused or lose our sense of direction in prayer, the Holy Spirit can compensate and correct for what we are lacking. He can balance our natural desires to have our own needs met with fulfilling God's will, which is essential but difficult for us to find on our own. Now, St. Paul goes about explaining how this works. He says, God, who searches the heart, knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. So the Father searches our heart for what is inexpressible to us, but not unintelligible for Him. Your deepest desires and longings, ones you don't even know how to put into words, are never too complex or too deep for God to understand. Not at all. Just think of a toddler drawing a picture that they want to give to their grandparent. Now, mom is probably going to intervene, writing down some quick descriptions. Like maybe she'll write tree next to the green blob on the paper. Or happy birthday by the messy shapes and lines and whatever might appear there. She will intervene for the toddler to help bridge the gap between the child and the grandparent. And friends, the Holy Spirit does the same for you and me. He turns our prayers and thoughts over to the Father, bridging the gap between our request and our true intentions, what we actually need and want. So when you are praying throughout this week, and I sure hope you do, just call on the Holy Spirit at the beginning of your prayer. Ask Him to get you in touch with your true intentions. And here's a good one. Ask Him to teach you how to pray. I know it might seem a bit weird at first, but ask Him to teach you how to pray. You'll be surprised how He helps you out. He's the one who can lead us to a deeper connection with God. After all, He is the advocate, the one sent to help us. He can help us get that deeper connection with God, which really is the true answer to all of our prayers.